I want to leave my bride because of her toxic family. For years of relationship with the bride and the intervention of her toxic family led to wedding planning, which turned into a nightmare. I tried to set boundaries, but her injuries from the past left us without support. As a result, I gave an ultimatum, and our break was the beginning of a series of catastrophic events, and all this ended in a terrible tragedy that changed. I've been dating my fiancé for years, and we got engaged 7 months ago. Now we are trying to plan a wedding for the fall of next year. My chosen one's childhood was terrible and, to put it mildly, cruel. Her parents were notorious narcissists, and she was a scat for her two brothers. She was treated terribly and kicked out of the house as soon as she turned 18. However, she was an excellent student and a diligent student, so after receiving a scholarship and working part-time, she made a great career and became quite independent. But the problem is that she still communicates with her family. None of them has changed. Although there is something, they have become more financially dependent on it. They like to slowly make their way into her life and emotionally blackmail her, demanding support or something else. And it's not very pleasant. They are rude, complacent, and generally like to cause inconvenience. And my bride can't say no. It doesn't matter what terrible things they say or openly try to intimidate her. I was aware of the history of her family and always supported her in difficult situations, but in the last year or so they have become much more impudent and stubborn. They come to our house more and more often, make a mess everywhere. Her mother acts like she's an evil stepmother from Cinderella, and her father drinks all my fucking beer and empties half of the refrigerator. Her brothers also come here from time to act as mouthpieces for their parents. They practically smashed the house and left us to clean up after themselves. And what is my non-visible one? It stands quietly in the corner and practically shakes. I'm not a fool. There is a place for a deep childhood trauma here. She has a need to earn their love, and she hopes that they will appreciate her. Before any of you, noble commentators, say the obvious, she has been going to therapy for many years. I tried to set boundaries. I've been trying to push these assholes away for almost 2 years. But this is her house, she bought it, and regardless of financial investments, she will not allow me to decide who comes here. They suppressed her morally and emotionally for too long. Recently, she told me that she wanted to earn their approval, and that they were right about her, and that she should treat them better. I had too many emotional conversations with tears and pleas to list them all, hoping that she would take steps towards recovery. But she's already an adult. I can't make her do anything. I love her, but I can't get rid of the feeling of resentment for the way she acts. It's agony to see how the person you love, who, as you know, deserves much more, openly destroys himself for the sake of people like her family. It's aching to watch her cry because of them at night. I tried many times to help her escape from their paws. But I have to think about the future. What will happen when we have children? What will happen when she, being after giving birth, invites them to her place? What will happen if one of us has health problems? What if we have financial difficulties, and they still demand money? These are relatives from hell, and I can't avoid them. Tomorrow I'm going to tell my fiancé that I want to postpone the wedding until we set firm boundaries. If she gets offended, I'll leave. I can't do this anymore. I refuse to continue watching this slow death. A week later in the evening, after I posted the first post, I decided that I was going to talk heart to heart with my fiancée about her family. However, the next day she came back from work early, and I already had a day off that day, so we were able to talk earlier. In fact, I told her that this state of affairs does not suit me, that it is inappropriate to get married, while her family takes such a large part in her life, and I, of course, am afraid to bring a child into this world in such an atmosphere. I didn't want to ask her to abruptly cut off contacts with them. But first I want to strictly limit their visits and what they can do in this house. I also suggested going to pair therapy. It didn't make her happy. She just looked at me angrily while I spoke, and then started yelling at me. She told me that I don't understand their dynamics, and it's good for her. I told her that they are toxic leeches who will suck all the blood out of her, and I have never seen them show decency towards her. She said she just needs to work harder to make them appreciate her. I mostly shouted at her that the parent's child should not ask, beg and work to be loved. In the end, I told her that either she sets boundaries with them, or I leave. She was furious, and since I lived in her house, I was expelled. That's why I lived in a hotel for the last few days, and my things were taken out and put in the storage room. And, to be honest, it was great. Around mid-July, I'm going to visit my family for a few weeks, and then go looking for my home. For the last couple of days I relaxed, finished watching movies, playing video games, which I didn't have time for. I can come back from work to a quiet room that doesn't have her family, who are deciming everything to pieces. Yesterday everything got into place. We have hardly talked since she kicked me out, but I know that every Saturday her family likes to spend the second half of the day with us, and she uses me as a shield from their bullying. I acted very meanly. I just kept the phone off all day and played Disco Elysium. I knew that when the climax came, she would call and ask to stand up for her in front of her family, and I didn't want to have anything to do with it. By the end of the night, she had sent me more than a dozen messages and, finally, to desperate voice messages, begging me to return home. I decided to come to check how she is there. In short, she was sobbing in the living room, and when I came up to talk to her, she threw herself on my neck, hugging and sobbing. I gave her time to cool down and asked what happened. In short, her parents and brother came to take money from her and told her terrible things. She wanted me to come to help, but I ignored her. She tried to ask one of her friends to help. Everyone mostly said few on. Everything became clear. She kicked her family out of the house, but not before they dumped all their supply of various nasty things that I won't repeat. She kept apologizing to me and asked me to come back again and again. I directly told her that I have been very resentful of her for some time, and although I love her and understand that it's all her trauma, not conscious aggression and neglect towards me, it's a serious problem that needs to be solved so that we can move on. She sells the house and moves. We earn about the same and will buy a house together and own it in equal shares. I am an adult man and will not live in a house where I do not have the right to vote. Her family will never cross the threshold of a new house. They will never come. If they try to get in, I'll pull them out by the skirmin without any courtesy. She will go to a new therapist, and we start pair consultations. She will never make me communicate with her family. Now we will reduce contacts with her family, but do not be mistaken, we are working on completely abandoning relations with them. I told her that I love her, that we have been together for a long time, and we have experienced many wonderful moments, and I know that she suffers from abuse, but the above issues are not subject to discussion, and if she has problems with any of them, then we must part. She told me that she realized a long time ago that her family is toxic and unhealthy, and wants change. She agreed to everything, but some of the points will take time. For now, I'm going to stay at the hotel to visit my family later. She can come to me, but I let her know that her house is not the place I want to go back to. Tomorrow she and I have a day off, so we'll spend the day here and maybe go somewhere. Obviously, this is not the end yet, but I am unlikely to be able to write anything before mid-August, 5 days after the previous update, despite the fact that I was not going to write updates in the near future, hoping to strengthen relations with my bride and build boundaries with her toxic family. Now we broke up. In fact, everything happened like this. After last weekend, when I left her for a while to deal with her relatives herself, she seems to have finally understood the situation and was ready for changes, including boundaries and a possible move. We spent Monday and Tuesday at my hotel, where I stayed, until I returned to my family for a couple of weeks. One evening she answered the text message very evasively, although she was originally supposed to come. My beloved came much later than expected, and I realized that something had happened. She mainly accused me of being cruel, controlling, overly demanding, and not supportive. It took me 5 fucking seconds to get fucked up and realize that she was literally repeating some rehearsed speech of her parents, and to be honest, I was so discouraged at that moment, because I believed in her, that I decided to behave like an asshole. I asked, "Is it her family's idea to say that?" She replied that they advised her, but she came to these conclusions herself. You. I asked her to explain in detail what I was doing wrong. She said that I live at her expense as a parasite. I reminded her that I pay 50/50 for her fucking mortgage, 50/50 for utilities and groceries. I have my own car, for which I paid. A job on which I earn about as much as she does, unlike her fucking parents, who demand weekly payments and raid the kitchen on weekends. I told you to come up with something better. She looked screwed and said I was trying to isolate her. I grinned mournfully and told her that I had always maintained her numerous friendships, which she destroyed herself, because no one wants to deal with her family or be used as a shield like me. I demanded an answer as to why she is trying so hard to ruin her life for the sake of these people. She just screamed that I don't understand her family, and she's just trying to earn their love. And everything turned into ordinary rant. Being involved in this is discouraging. I looked into several subreddits to find out about the prospects, and if you are even a little familiar with them, you will see how people who have become victims of abuse by their own family can be so broken by this that it destroys their brains to such an extent that they really believe that they are the problem, and they deserve to be abused. It was the same with her. She was completely broken and refused to help. She didn't want to recover. She wanted to dive deeper and deeper into it. Awareness of the situation fell on me like a truck hit. I really felt like a fool for trying, even if it was right and what I had to do. She was practically mad, and I was just mentally exhausted and needed her to leave before someone called the police. In the end, she left, but several worried neighbors stopped by to check on me. Some of her friends are also in the know. They wrote to me to find out how things are going. I told them the truth and told them that I just need to be alone to think about what to do next. They said that she gave them similar scandals after they expressed concern for her. One of them even heard that she might be at risk of losing her job. She definitely has something wrong with her psyche. As far as I understand, she is completely isolated now. She actually condemns herself to complete loneliness. I can't help her in any way, and no matter how selfish it sounds, I'm just glad that everything is left behind. 3 days after the last update, everything seems to have turned up, but there are some inconsistencies. I completely forgot to change the mailing address, which had to be done as soon as possible, because a couple of important things were sent to her home because of this. I had to go for them, as well as for a couple of things necessary for the move, which I left there and decided that I wanted to pick up. It was difficult with her. She didn't answer messages about these things, so I had to go for them myself. Just in case, I took our mutual friend with me. Fortunately, she allowed me to pick up my things without hindrance, and there were no problems with that. But otherwise they were very good. She told me a lot of nasty things. I said I had already found a new job, and not only. She told me how happy she was to be gone. She said that she finally got rid of me, that she would be much better without me. A lot of typical insults and terrible things that usually accompany heavy partings. And you know what? It was very clear that this was a rehearsed scenario from her family, and it was obvious how unhappy she was. She looked like she hadn't slept for several days. The house was a mess. She couldn't even scream. Her words sounded so exhausted and broken. She didn't even smile when she spoke, only a face distorted by hatred and anger. She was no longer the woman I knew. That man was gone. When I was about to leave, she still continued. I was fed up and told her something like, "Congratulations, your friends are no more. Your human shields have disappeared. Your engagement is cancelled. Your support is gone. Everyone who treated you as a worthy person is no more. Only you and your family are left. I hope you'll be happy while they suck your blood." Maybe not quite like that, but something like that. She just stood there. She literally just stood, looked at me indifferently and left while I was leaving. When we were going away, our mutual friend Tiffany asked if I was okay. I assured her that everything is fine and I'm just trying to prepare for returning home next week. She also confirmed that, according to her information, my ex lost her job for not appearing on it for several days and, in fact, became a ghost. They are going to intervene for her next week and asked if I could take part in it, but I will not postpone the trip because, to be honest, I just want to end it. I know for sure that if I remain involved, I will witness how she slowly fades away or commits suicide. I just can't stand it. Despite everything, I look forward to the future and realize that at the very beginning I ignored too many alarm signals. Even despite everything that happened, I know that everything will be fine and everything will be fine. Currently, I have returned to my native state with my family and am getting used to it again. I have 100% decided to stay here forever and start a long process of finding housing. I'm doing great. I spend time with friends and family. A couple of quarrels with my ex-fiancée made me understand what was going on, and it seems that the situation is finally getting better. On Sunday, it was planned to carry out an intervention, but on Saturday evening, after another visit of her family, she called her friends in an absolutely manic state, and it seems that she finally realized how much she screwed up. It was a complete panic attack and a breakdown, which ended up with her getting into the emergency room. Needless to say, she finally admitted that she was unhappy and that she had greatly ruined her life. She tried to call me, but I blocked her. She still has a job, and the information that she was fired was false, but she hangs by a thread. And her boss told her to take a vacation for a few weeks to get herself in order. She is a valuable employee, and they are trying to make sure that she can improve before she is fired. Her company of friends is very close. My ex was a very involved and supportive friend, so it is quite logical that her company went so far, trying to help her. However, there is an unspoken agreement that if she becomes the way she was again, they will all be ready to let her drown in their loneliness. She's doing well. As expected, her family continues to bombard her with calls and messages. They tried to come to her house, but they were decisively braved by her friends and even neighbors. I hope she really understands what kind of support system she has. As usual, heinous family showdowns happen. Her parents and brothers posted it on Facebook, which, as I heard, benefited my ex, because she showed their behavior to more people and, it seems, made them shut up for a while. She asked one of her friends to give me a message. In fact, in it she admitted that all the terrible things she told me were a lie and were dictated by her family, which I was sure of. She apologized for how it all ended and expressed the hope that someday we will be able to start all over again. Unfortunately, I had to tell her that we broke up forever and that she needed to focus on her recovery, but I told her that I was still thinking about her and wishing her all the best, but it should be our farewell. It seems that the message was transmitted, and her friends help her cope with it. She has a long way to go, but I hope she can come to harmony, just like me. Actually, I didn't think I'd write anything else to the whole mess. If you are interested in the whole background, you can read it in my profile. Since I got home, my business is going very well. I moved all my things here and temporarily live with my parents while I'm looking for a home. I got a job last week. I come here just to comment on some shit post and that's it. Unfortunately, despite all the efforts of my ex's friends, the situation began to develop according to the worst scenario. As a result, their whole company broke up. The ex lives her own life. I learned everything I want to share with you last night. Since I left, her friends have been helping her get back on her feet. They forced her to go to therapy, helped build boundaries with her family, dragged her out of the house. They really did everything possible and impossible. However, Tiffany, a friend who helped me the last time I met my ex-fiancée, began to suspect her of flirting with Daniel Tiff's boyfriend when they were at her house. I don't know all the details, but Tiffany got into Daniel's phone while he was sleeping and found a very sexy correspondence between them. What plunged me into complete shock is that this correspondence was 5 months old. Tiffany naturally went crazy and told everyone about it. That's what no one expected was the shit show that followed. Daniel, now former Tiffany, in a burst of fuck covered himself with another member of their company, Joseph, saying that he helped cover him up. Joseph's girlfriend left him in response and kicked him out of her house. There were about 9 people in their company, including my ex, and almost everyone quarreled. And the only ones who still communicate with each other are Tiffany and Joseph's ex. And also, I was informed that, although I was not at home for about a month, all this happened literally in the first week. My ex immediately lost all support, and in general, she was blamed for everything that happened. This only aggravated her already deteriorating mental state. Of course, everyone wanted to know why she did this to one of her best friends. In response, she simply gave out the banality that she and Daniel became close. He gave her the best support, and, of course, she told her family about him, and they approved him. Not me. That night when I left her house for the hotel, she invited him to her place. Obviously, her goal was to leave me for him, but Daniel didn't want to leave Tiffany for her. And he didn't like to hear about her family, so he obviously wouldn't go beyond an ordinary affair. To be honest, it seemed to me that I should be more angry than I was, but I moved on. I recently underwent a full examination by my new doctor and received a conclusion that I am completely healthy, including the absence of sexually transmitted diseases, so I have nothing to worry about. I was told that I should be aware of everything, because, to be honest, no one knew how to convey it to me after so long. And I understand them. So yes, my ex was completely ostracized, even by the former Tiffany. Daniel just disappeared. She was all blocked and left to deal with her problems on her own. Tiffany only knew that she had finally lost her job and spent almost all her free time visiting her family. In a sense, they won. 2 nights ago it turned out that she committed suicide in her house. Her family found her. One of the members of the old friendly company, who lived nearby, came to her when the medics appeared there. Her family was there, and it seemed that they didn't care about it. Tiffany called me last night to warn me. There were a few notes, and she asked me as delicately as possible if I wanted to take mine to put an end to it. I really don't know what to do with it. My soul hurts. I never really knew this woman. During the last month I spent at home, I had to put up with the fact that she was cruel in the relationship, the way she made me go through all the shit with my family, and now it seems that it was a way to push me away so that she could be in the arms of another man who seems to be liked by her family. To be honest, it puzzles me even more that he had something that I didn't have. Did they just like to play with her? Was there anything in her life real? Was there anything sincere in the group of people I spent years of my life with? Coming back here is the best decision I've ever made, and now I have full confirmation of it. I can start therapy to work through this bedlam, spend time with a really reliable group of people, not on the internet, and my family is there for support. But yes, it will torment me for a long time. After a sound sleep and time for reflection, I feel good. I received several messages from people who show concern and even send funds, and please stop it, LOL. I'm fine and I'll be digesting all this for a while, but please don't think I'll hurt myself or think about something worse. I'm starting a much better chapter in my life, and I intend to get the most out of it. I'm still wondering whether to read the note or not, but I'm fine. After I learned about the death of my ex, my life was filled with chaos. I was unable to concentrate on work. My thoughts were constantly returning to her suffering. I was trying to find an explanation. What went wrong? How long has she been fighting? These questions tormented me. I didn't participate in the intervention, and now this thought gnawed at me. Maybe if I had stayed, everything could have been different. But it can't be changed anymore. I decided it was time to close this difficult section of my life. A few weeks later, I turned to my friends, trying to find support. I told them about my feelings of guilt, how I felt that I had not done enough. Some of them just listened, while others tried to lift my spirits, but nothing helped. I kept feeling lost. My therapist suggested starting a diary to release my thoughts. I did it every day, writing down all my emotions, sadness, anger, guilt. It turned out to be useful, although it often caused tears. The letter was the only way for me to truly express what I felt. Gradually, I began to realize that resentment against her family only aggravates the pain. I wasn't going to forgive them, but I had to let go of this hatred to try to move on. Instead of wasting my energy on anger, I decided to focus on myself and restore my life. Nevertheless, the memories of her remained. I saw friends join photos of her smiling. It reminded me of temporary happiness. Seeing this, I felt grief and regret again that our relationship ended so tragically. How threateningly fast people can leave our world. A few months passed, and to my surprise, one day I felt that I was ready to try a new love life. I started getting to know people, although it was difficult. I understood that I had not yet cured the pain, and you need to be careful not to project your fears on a new partner. Every time I met someone new, I tried to stay open, but the conversations were always about my past. I was frank with some people, but not with others. When someone sometimes asked a question about previous relationships, I felt an inner struggle. It was easy to say that everything was fine, but deep down I knew that this was far from the truth. Over time, I became more confident. Being in the process of self-healing, I learned to look at the future more optimistically. I realized that this chapter is coming to an end, but this is not the end. There is a lot of unexplored ahead of me, and I am ready to accept challenges. However, despite the achievement of little progress, the shadow of the past still made itself felt. Every time I saw news about mental health or problems in families, I was overwhelmed with chills. I remembered it and the bitterness that was connected with our history. In the end, I decided not to keep everything to myself. I shared my feelings with close friends, worried about the availability of help to people who might be in a similar situation. I began to establish important contacts with organizations supporting people with mental health problems, realizing that such support is critical. With each step, I became closer to a world that would not be determined by the past. Now I understood that life is full of the joy of interaction with other people. I allowed myself to learn to trust again, to experience joy, even when faced with grief. Life goes on, and it has the opportunity to build a new tomorrow.